Okay, welcome to the Revitalizing Life Health Talk. My name is Jenny Hughes and I'm a healing facilitator. And if there are questions about what that means, hopefully I will answer them in the presentation tonight. May, I'm going to go ahead and mute you because I'm hearing an echo.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that should be better. And I'm going to put down the participant screen. All right. A little bit of, okay, gonna do that. There we go. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've been on a pretty interesting journey over the last, well, since 2003, really. My background is in mechanical engineering. I worked in Silicon Valley, working on semiconductor equipment for 10 plus years. And then I started a family and I decided I wanted to stay home with my kids. And that was really when I started on my journey of personal development, because I hit a point where I felt like I had done everything I was supposed to do, and yet things were not going well. My marriage wasn't going well. I was having a lot of behavioral issues with my son. And that was when I got turned on to the world of personal development. And I realized that I wasn't going to be able to just go through my life logically and analytically. I found out that the intuitive and creative side of me was equally as important. That's just some of my engineering background. So what happened was I ended up having a panic attack. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but on the ambulance ride to the hospital, where instead of receiving loving care, I was actually interrogated by the paramedics about, do you do drugs? Do you do alcohol? Do you smoke? And I was just surprised by this interrogation. And they asked me how often I have panic attacks. And I said, oh, is that what this is? Because I had nearly passed out from just hyperventilating and crying really hard about the state of my life. And they took me to the hospital where there were no rooms available. So I was on a bed sitting in a hallway and I had to wait a long time to speak with a doctor. And I only got about 5 minutes with that doctor. And he took most of that time to explain to me why the paper bag works. And then he wrote me a prescription for a drug called Xanax, and he sent me home. And I took that medication that night, and wow, that was crazy. I won't ever take that again. I had crazy, crazy dreams. I could barely get up the next morning to take my kids to school. It just felt really off to me. That wasn't the kind of help that I was looking for, or the kind of help that I needed. And at that time, I had just discovered a life coaching program that was about using your intuition to help others get in touch with their intuition. So this was just like a complete 180 from my engineering background, but it fascinated me. And it was such great timing, because in that program, I was with other women who were experiencing similar difficulties in their lives. And we were learning these incredible tools for managing the stressful emotions and really transforming our lives from the inside instead of from the outside. And I went on to receive a certification as a master intuitive coach. I became a coach mentor in a weight release program that was online. And then I also learned an emotional freedom technique for clearing subconscious blocks to success. That was another program that I got certified in, a Tapping into Wealth program. Well, then about 3 years ago, I came across a healing facilitation program that I'll talk a little bit more about tonight. But in my personal development journey, I learned that really the mind and the body are important and they're connected. And we can't move forward in our healing journey without addressing both the mind and the body. So now I am doing healing facilitation work in my home studio, and it's a hands-on, in-person work mostly, but due to COVID, all of us have had to get creative and take our work online, and I am finding ways to work with people long distance. And that's why I'm giving this health talk tonight as part of a Zoom call. So the goal of the presentation tonight is to get some clarity on the difference between healing and curing. I think these terms tend to be used as the same thing, but they are actually very different in the world of healing. And I want people to have a better understanding of the unconscious tension in the body and what it does and what we can do about it, because it's not healthy. We're going to talk about how to reclaim your vital energy and why your vital energy is locked up in the first place. And I'm going to talk about the ELAN healing system, which is an acronym for Extraordinary Living Advanced Neurology. So healing facilitation, what is that? To answer this question, I have to talk about the difference between healing and curing. A lot of us are culturalized to go seek out a practitioner that can help us make symptoms go away. So it's like this model of that symptoms don't have any meaning. We just need to get them out of the way so that we can go back to living the way that we were living before the symptoms showed up. So a cure is just trying to make something go away without really addressing the root cause of why the symptom has shown up. So in the healing world, symptoms have meaning. Our bodies are highly intelligent and they're trying to tell us something. They're trying to get us to do something different. So healing is about personal responsibility. Now, another thing I've learned in the personal development world is that humans really need progress in order to feel satisfied. So getting a cure for something and then just going back to the way that you were operating before means that you're really staying the same. It means you're actually going back in time. Like I think about trying to get a cure is like, oh, I want to go back in time. I want to go back to the way I was. But humans actually need progress in order to feel satisfied. So healing is about that journey of personal development and progress. And I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I don't want to bash the medical, I don't want to bash medicine, because there are truly some miraculous things that they offer us, especially if you're in an accident or you have an acute infection, something that needs attention right away. You know, I would never tell anybody to not go to the doctor. In fact, I recommend that my clients have a really good relationship with their doctor to monitor any medications that they may need. Okay. I also believe that healing is not something that someone does to you. I believe that it's an innate intelligence that we're all born with, and we've all experienced. You know, you cut your hand and you can watch over a bit of time as the cut heals. Our body is able to heal itself. And so, oh, we've got people in the waiting room. Okay, so let me do that real quick. Admit. Okay, so we've got people joining. Now I'll just continue while they're joining because this is recorded and people will be able to watch back. Okay, so healing, I believe, is something that we need to create space for in our bodies, and stress in our minds and tension in our bodies are really the culprits that are blocking the intelligence of healing to be able to do its work. Get back to the slideshow here. Now, people really need human care. We are social creatures. We need tender, loving care. And that's what I love about this healing facilitation work. It involves gentle touch and inviting people to find the next best version of themselves. And I truly believe that healing is really the emerging center of healthcare. This is something that my teacher and mentor always says. And if you look at the state of the medical system now in terms of chronic disease, Western medicine is just not handling that very well. And I think healing facilitation is key to changing that situation. All right, so our healthcare system is broken. And here's some things that I was shocked to learn, that for the past 3 years, life expectancy has been dropping. And the US, which, I think the United States is a pretty well-developed country, and yet we rank 64th in life expectancy. So there's definitely some other countries that are doing things a little bit better than we are. And this was the other shocking thing. Just looking at the participants here real quick. Looks like Kyle's still trying to get in. Waiting room message. Boy, I need a co-host, don't I? Waiting room. Oh, looks like you need to be admitted again. Okay, so here's another shocking thing that I learned, that taking the correct drug for the correct diagnosis kills hundreds of thousands of people per year. So that means nobody made a mistake that anybody can identify, but still people are dying from medications. And over-the-counter medications are not as safe as we have been led to believe. A few years ago, my dad was diagnosed with a fairly large tumor, it was about the size of an egg, and that was on his kidney. And he and my mom had some very difficult decisions to make about how that tumor was going to be dealt with. But what came out of that whole discovery was that my dad had been taking an Advil every day for the past 10 years. And it turns out that is not a good thing to do. And I want to say that my dad is a super intelligent guy. He has a PhD. He's a chemical physicist that worked for Sandia National Labs for over 25 years. And it just goes to show that we're really misled, and we need to question over-the-counter medications. So non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, Advil, what they do is they inhibit platelet aggregation, which causes bleeding. And they block the chemicals that normally dilate the blood vessels leading to the kidneys, therefore decreasing the blood flow to the kidneys, which means a lack of oxygen. And when anything has a lack of oxygen, it's causing injury to that organism. Okay, put that away. I don't know if that's going to show up in the recording. Back to the slideshow. Okay, so this is back in the 1999 in the New England Journal of Medicine. It was stated that non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for rheumatoid and/or osteoarthritis conservatively cause 16,500 Americans to bleed to death, making it the 15th leading cause of death in the US. So if you don't take anything else away from this presentation, I hope you will question over-the-counter medications and not be as trusting of them and use them in moderation. All right. Your biology reflects your biography. What this slide is about is the unconscious tension that builds up in our body over time. So this graph is showing experiences in your life, and the green arrow points up for the positive experiences, the ones that we just really love, that make life really enjoyable. And then the red arrow points to the ones that are more traumatic, that are really challenging for us. And when we have something challenging, something traumatic happen where our cortex doesn't quite know what to do with it, our body has this very good short-term strategy of somaticizing, or more commonly known as stuffing it. And so, for example, if there is a little kid and he's out in the street with his dad learning to ride a bike, and he really wants to impress his dad, he doesn't want to disappoint his dad, but he takes a kind of a nasty fall and it really hurts, but he doesn't want to disappoint his dad. And so he just gathers himself up and he gets back on the bike, and his body helps him with this by just locking it away from the brain. So the trauma actually gets stored in the body. And so tension loads up in the body from these experiences. And that's what's locking away your vital life energy, because it takes energy to hold that unconscious tension. Like if you were to make a fist right now and just keep holding it tight, after just a little while, not too long, that's going to get uncomfortable, right? And you're going to be like, oh, that's not comfortable. I'm just going to let that go. So consciously, you're able to let that go. But inside of our bodies, we have tension that we're not able to consciously let go of, because it's hanging on to something for processing at a later time. And this tension, what it does is it disrupts the optimal functioning. More specifically, it affects our posture. So if you see the picture on the right, you see a man kind of hunched over. You know, think of a dog that has been traumatized and it's got its tail tucked under and its back is bent in a curve. That's a defensive posture where you're defending your organs. And when you have a buildup of this tensions from traumas, it's holding that all the time. And if you think about the spine, if you look at this picture and think, okay, what is that man's spine doing? The spinal cord. The spinal cord is getting stretched because of that posture. And the same thing happens when the tensions are holding vertebrae out of alignment. It's like a towel getting, like twisting the water out of a wet towel. If you have one vertebrae up high that's twisted to the left and you have another one down low that's twisted to the right, it's actually twisting the spinal cord like a towel. And your spinal cord is your main communication channel between your brain and your body. Your body is constantly communicating with your brain about what's going on externally. It's taking all kinds of sensory information and feeding it up to your brain and what's going on in the body. And then the brain is making a determination, okay, what needs to happen in the body, and it's sending the messages back down. Well, if this communication line is being stretched, and you can imagine a hose, if it's being stretched, the inner diameter is going to be squeezed down. And the same thing with a rotational twist on the spinal cord, that is going to disrupt this main communication channel. So your optimal functioning of your body is really disrupted. And this stress physiology, the defensive posture, it causes the sympathetic nervous system to fire continuously. You have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetics are the fight or flight. That's when you're in stress response and your body is saying, danger, danger. We've got to be ready to fight or flight. So blood flow is shunted away from the cortex. It goes to the hindbrain, where you're scanning the horizon for danger and you're just making quick, like, survival decisions. And then in your body, the blood flow is shunted away from the organs and out to the extremities so that you can run or fight. And so there is no healing going on. There is no good decision-making going on. Your creativity is shut down. And this is good short-term if you're getting chased by a tiger, but we don't want to be chronically in this state of stress response, because that is shutting down the healing capability of the body. And it's really a vicious cycle, because we are prey animals. Our brains are wired to focus on problems, to focus on what's going wrong. And by law of attraction, you get more of what you focus on. What the heck can we do about this vicious cycle? Because it's causing this drain on our life vitality. Our bodies are stuffing this trauma to protect us. You can imagine, I want to talk about why it's a good short-term strategy, because you can imagine that if your brain had access to every trauma that had ever happened to you in your life, we wouldn't be able to function. That would be way too overwhelming. So I call it a great short-term strategy, because the body is protecting your brain. But in the long term, it's causing this increase of the unconscious tension in your body, of all these data files that are stored for later processing. Okay, so it's a good short-term strategy, but it's bad in the long term, because your vitality is being used to hang on to that tension. Now, ultimately, what that's causing is something we call adverse mechanical cord tension, AMCT. That is what I was talking about earlier, where the spinal cord is being stretched and or twisted. And that's compromising the ability of your body to communicate effectively between the brain and the body. Here's a really interesting study that was done, because Dr. Henry at the University of Pennsylvania, he wanted to find out if there was a correlation on this claim that out of alignment vertebrae were actually connected to disease. So he took 97 cadavers, a total of 221 disease organs, and studied the correlations. And his findings were pretty amazing, nearly 100%. It was 99.2% correlation of minor curvatures in the spine and the diseases of the internal organs. So I'm a visual person, so I like to look at this visual where you can actually see where the nerves are coming out of the spine and going to the various organs in the body. When you are a fetus developing in the womb, the organs are actually like the fruits of your nervous system. And so what he found was that in all 20 cases where there were heart conditions, they had the upper 5 thoracic vertebrae were misaligned. And if you can see the picture, you can tell this is the upper thoracic spine, and the nerves coming out of that area are going directly to the heart. With the stomach, all 9 cases of stomach disease had spinal misalignments in the mid-thoracic, the T5 through T9 area. So if you see the stomach here, sure enough, those nerves are connected right into the mid-thoracic spine. Liver disease, all 13 cases of liver disease had misalignments in the mid-thoracic area. And if you see the liver here, that is connected into the mid-thoracic. And kidney, all 17 cases of kidney disease were out of alignment in the lower thoracic area, the T10 through T12. Pretty compelling study. And I think that speaks to the primary root cause of disease, tying back into this adverse mechanical cord tension, the stretching or twisting of the spinal cord. And even if you look at this picture, and understanding that when you're in that defensive posture, the weight of your head is cantilevering out and causing, well, like a normal setup, you've got 12-pound force, but if the head is slightly forward, it's more like 32 pounds. And then for someone where the head is really forward, 42 pounds. So these tensions held in the body cause misalignments of the spine. They put force on the spinal cord. And so the primary goal of healing, to me, is about finding ways to reduce that adverse mechanical cord tension. Your body is incredible. Injuries heal. We were talking about that earlier. You have this survival response if you really are in danger and you need to run or fight. Reproduction is such a miracle. If you just think about a baby developing from an egg and a sperm, it is miraculous. And there are just countless involuntary functions that are going on in the body that we don't even have to think about, we don't have to take charge of. Our bodies are truly miraculous. They are a machine with innate intelligence. There is a life force, and it knows how to heal itself if we create the space for that. So the best healing care that I know of, what it does are these things. It engages the parasympathetics so that you can get into the rest, digest, and heal. It teaches the nervous system specific strategies for dropping tension, for releasing the energetic charge, really, of the events that have happened to us in our lives. And we want the focus to be on ease, not on a problem. Because I've been studying law of attraction for a number of years now, and it's become very clear to me that what you focus on expands. So this is another issue in our culture about focusing on something that's wrong and just kind of going after that. If you're focusing on it, you're actually putting the attention on it that could make it worse. So a really good idea in the realm of wellness is to focus on your wellness, to focus on what's working. And that's something that I really love about the ELAN healing system, is the philosophy of focusing on what's working. Your healing care should clean up the neurological pathways for better mind-body communication. It's this unconscious tension in our bodies that is really blocking the communication to certain areas of our bodies, or at least making the communication very difficult or very poor. So we want to clean up those neurological pathways in the body. So, good nutrition and exercise are super important, but I think the primary thing people need to be focused on in a healing journey is the health of the spine. The data for ELAN healing system is really profound. That's one of the things that really drew me into this particular system, because the creators of ELAN healing have been doing research for over 20 years now. And it's pretty profound that in the first 2 months of care, the clients report physical comfort in their body increasing by an average of 14.5%. They report that their mental and emotional states improve by over 20%. And that's profound, because antidepressant medications get you about a 1% improvement, just to give you a frame of reference. Stress levels, the reported stress levels drop by over 20%. Enjoyment of life goes up by more than 10% on average. And the quality of life ratings increase an average of nearly 20%. Who wouldn't want their quality of life to go up by 20%? And as someone who's receiving this care as well as providing it, I can speak to all of these numbers. If you find a practice with better results, please tell me about it, because I'm actually kind of a collector of all these different tools that help us in our healing journey. And this one by far is the most profound data that I have seen. All right, let's take a moment to breathe. I have this slide in here mostly for myself, but it's good for all of us because I present a lot of information. It's good to take a breath. It's good to just get your hands on your body. Yes, there's that deep breath. And just to connect to that place within you that knows how to find more wellness. Because no matter what's going on in your life, no matter where you are mentally at any given time, you can find a place of peace and ease inside your body. It's part of the miraculous body that we have. So just take a moment to breathe and connect with your wellness. Where is there wellness in you? The outside world is so distracting that we forget to connect internally. So the ELAN healing system that I've been referencing tonight, it uses light touch. And what that's doing is initiating communication to specific areas of the spine. It dials down the sympathetic nervous system while dialing up the parasympathetic nervous system. So that means dialing down the stress response and dialing up the rest, the healing, digestion. It enhances unconscious posture, like how you're holding yourself. You know, I've been in care for a number of years now, and I just noticed that I will sit, my posture is more open, my heart is more open. It increases the cortex activity and down regulates that hindbrain. You know, when we get a little stressed or, you know, someone triggers us, it's really easy to get into that reactionary lizard brain, is what I call it, instead of being able to stay present, stay up in the cortex and respond instead of react. It optimizes neurological tone. So this is an interesting concept when I first learned it, that the shape, tone, and tension of your physiology matches the shape, tone, and tension of your life. So if you take a moment to think about somebody in your life who is really nervous and anxious, it almost like sets you off to be around them. Does their life look relaxed and wonderful and smooth? Probably not, because what's going on in your physiology is actually reflected out. It's this concept that we are a projector, and our life is a projection of what is going on inside of us. With ELAN healing system, we see an improvement in body language and definitely increases in coordination and balance. So the primary clinical goal that I have when I'm working with someone is to reduce the tension on the spinal cord. It goes to that adverse mechanical cord tension. That's the primary goal. And in care, we have ways that we're checking that tension, both the stretch of the cord and the rotation of the cord. And so the goal of the first 2 months of care, it's called revitalization care, and we're looking to reduce the adverse mechanical cord tension. And we do it by focusing on areas of the body that are connected and working and expanding those. So if somebody comes in and they're, complaining of a neck problem or maybe a knee problem, I'm not going to focus on their neck or their knee. I'm going to look for what's working. And that's where we begin. All right, so summary of tonight's presentation is that we talked about the difference between curing and healing. Healing is this journey of creating space for our personal development and for that innate intelligence of healing things that might be ailing us. It's symptoms have meaning. We learned that defensive posture and stress physiology are causing chronic stress response. So it's not only our busy lives that are causing us to be in chronic stress, it's also having that unconscious tension bound up in the body and holding us in a defensive posture. That's also firing the fight or flight stress response on a chronic basis. And so it's really compromising your body's ability to heal. So the goal of effective healing facilitation is to see a reduction in the adverse mechanical cord tension. I just love to see my practice members enjoy more comfort in their bodies, improved mental states, and higher quality of life. So the call to action tonight would be for you to have an initial consultation, and those are complimentary. And those are a conversation. They can be over the phone or in person or over the Zoom. And the beautiful thing about the initial consultation, I sometimes call it a clarity session because it's finding just more clarity about what do I do next? And if you schedule your consultation tonight, you'll receive that the assessment is complimentary as well. And that's a $75 value. And people always want to know, well, what does it cost to be in care? And visits are $39 and they take approximately 30 minutes. Now, if you are not local to me and can't come see me, I am doing some things online and working with people remotely because there are things that you can do with yourself in the ELAN healing system. And so I teach a class called Evolutionary Personal Care. Right now I'm doing that every, the first Thursday of every month. It's a $20 workshop. And I teach you how to do these self-healing facilitation skills. And the beautiful thing is it's not complicated. It's very easy, just takes a few minutes a day once you have those skills. All right, it is time for Q&A. I'm going to stop the share, come back into the Zoom room. Okay. Okay.
Excellent information, Jenny, and excellent delivery. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
How do we best contact you for an appointment or doing that first initial assessment?
Yes, great question. My website is www.jennyhugheshealing.com. And you can schedule a clarity session from there. You can send me an email to jenny@jennyhugheshealing.com. Let's see, my phone number. Well, May, I know you're in Singapore, so I don't know if you would want to text me, although I do have WhatsApp, which is handy for communication outside of the country. But yeah, my cell phone is 530-389-4141.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I also do Facebook Lives. So I have a Facebook page. You go into Facebook and search Jenny Hughes Healing. You'll find my page, and I try to go live once a week in there to just share short processes that are great for the healing journey.
I
Okay.
appreciate all the different ways we can access your teachings. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It looks like May is muted, so I don't know if you're trying to ask any questions, May. I've got the chat open also. I'm going to go ahead and stop